is Carrie Tumania. I'm a love and relationship expert and an energy worker, and we are here on day 4 of our Loving Your Authentic Self Challenge. If you've been following along, we have already covered blockages to self-love. We have talked about understanding self-love as a pathway, a practice that happens on a scale, something that we don't just turn on or turn off. That it isn't a pass-fail. And on day 3, yesterday, we talked about self-love from the perspective of what you may have unconsciously observed, lessons you may have learned, or experiences that you may have had as a child or growing up that are informing your current practice, your current understanding of self-love, and how we can consciously take time as adults to reevaluate those lessons, reevaluate those conclusions, and see what's working for us. And today I want to talk a little bit more about self-love as a conscious practice, something tangible, something that we actually do for ourselves. If we think about self-love as essentially a relationship of self-regard, about how we feel about ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we regard ourselves, that practical, tangible component becomes really important. Let me explain. Imagine that you're in a relationship, and you know that you're in a relationship. You and your partner have both agreed that you're in a relationship. You understand the importance of your relationship, and you've committed to being in that relationship for some amount of time, but then you don't do anything together. You don't spend time together. You don't interact. Neither one of you makes any tangible, conscious effort towards your relationship. Well, that relationship wouldn't be very fulfilling. And so when we think about our own self-regard, our own relationship with ourselves, I want to challenge you to think of it as an actual relationship. Think of it as actually something that you have to invest tangible time into. And just like you would get to know a potential partner or someone that you're dating, and you would build intimacy, and you would build vulnerability, and you'd build honesty, and you would form, honest communication between the two of you, all of those things have to happen for yourself as well. And not only does it make space for really radical self-love in your life, but it makes space for you to practice those very same qualities and those very same tangible activities in your actual relationships moving forward. The better your relationship is with yourself, the better you will experience relationships outside of yourself. The more investment you make into your own self-love, the more you'll see that reflected in your other relationships as you become more and more capable, more and more able to receive love that aligns with you. And part of receiving love that's in alignment with you is understanding how you prefer to receive love. Now, I did not create the love languages. You may have heard of them, but they are something that I have used for many years in my practice. I think they are deeply important to understanding how we give and receive love. And they can shed a lot of light on how you show up in relationships, on unmet expectations in relationships, and what kind of awareness you need to have about your partner, and how you tend to give and receive love from your own love languages and how theirs might be different. It's a very powerful tool. It was designed by a gentleman by the name of Gary Chapman, all over the internet. Lots of information available on the love languages. If you are familiar with the love languages, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you're not, I'm going to give you a quick little rundown for today's video, and then encourage you to do some reading and some research on your own on this topic, because like I said, there's a ton of information available to you. The love languages basically is based on a theory that each individual person is designed to give or receive love in one or two ways, and that the author creates an overview of 5 different ways that love can be shown, given, or received. And he theorizes that each person has 1 or 2 of those ways that they prefer, that feel the most loving to them from their perspective. And you can see why knowing what your partner's love languages are is really important, so that you can show them love in the way that they perceive is most loving. But I want to take that a step further with you today and challenge you to knowing your own love languages, your own preferred love languages, so that you can tangibly and actively start to practice self-love, start to show yourself love in a way that you internally perceive love to be most loving, in the way that internally it feels most aligned for you. Because there are a lot of practices, there are a lot of things you can do in the name of self-love, but you want to be able to know which ones of these activities, which ones of these suggestions is going to feel the most loving and the most real to me. And it's deeply important as we begin on our journey of self-love and as we start to move up that scale of learning how to practice self-love, not only to be doing it in a tangible way that we can see and feel and experience, and in a way that feels the most aligned for us, but the real crux of why this is important is because this all comes back down to self-regard. Do you regard yourself well enough to honor your needs? And if you individually perceive love to be most loving in one of a couple of ways, then it is deeply important for you to take the time and the space and the energy to honor that internal need. And taking the time and space to honor that internal need is actually in and of itself a deep act of self-love. You're saying, yes, I am important enough. I am valuable enough. I am worthy enough to experience tangible love in my life in the way that I perceive as most loving, in a way that meets my needs the best. And that in and of itself is such a huge step in the realm of learning self-love. Just acknowledging that you have internal needs that you can meet and that you are valuable enough and worthy enough of having them met. And it starts with you, of having them met by you, and then it translates to your outside relationships, of having relationships that are willing and able and excited to and want to meet your needs in the best way for you. And what a beautiful thing to be in a relationship with yourself and then with other people where your needs are not only honored and acknowledged, but that you are living in an experience where the people around you and the people that are part of your experience and your world and your life are really, really excited to meet your needs in the way that you need them met. To honor your desires in the way that feels most aligned for you, because they are so in tune with who you are that they can't help it. And that's how I want you to feel about yourself. I want you to feel so in tune with who you are that you cannot help but want to tangibly show yourself love in the way that feels most loving for you. So I dropped a link in the description of this video to the love languages quiz. There's a quiz that helps you kind of deduce what your love languages are. Now, that's for you if you want to take the quiz. It's nice to do. It's a fun little activity if you are watching this video during the global pandemic and you are quarantined. It can be a nice way to also, if you have time to do it, just do it. But I'm going to talk through the 5 love languages really quickly, and you might just recognize what feels most aligned for you. So remember, this is not meant to be a box. It's not meant to be a limitation. There is nothing that says because you prefer love to be given or received in a specific way that the other ways are not important to you, or you can't acknowledge those ways. It just means that given your preferences, these things feel most internally valuable, most internally aligned with who I am and how I like to or prefer to experience love. Not that we don't acknowledge the other ones, just that these are my preferences. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the 5 love languages, if you're unfamiliar, are words of affirmation, service, acts of service, gifts, valuable time, and physical touch. And you might hear that list and already know I know that one of those is mine. So essentially, words of affirmation are words that build you up. They are kind words. They are loving words. You want to hear your partner or people in your lives say or communicate verbally that they love you. Acts of service are things that people tangibly do to show their love. So rather than communicating it directly, they might be of service to you. They do things to help. They will find something that you need and they'll meet that need, or they'll fix something, or they'll take care of something. They'll do the thing that you want, and people, can love to receive love that way. Gifts are literal gifts. I want you to give me things, tangible things that I can touch and hold, and they are gifted to me. But quality time Valuable time. Time is, I want your attention. I want your undivided space. I want you to make time for me. I want you to spend time with me. I just want you to be present with me. It's not about what we're doing or what you're giving me or what you're saying. It's just that you are devoting time to being one-on-one with me. And then physical touch, obviously, is love that is translated or communicated through physical contact. When it comes to self-love, there are some really key ways that we can use those to communicate love to ourselves. So oftentimes we talk about the love languages, people automatically think relationships. I want you to think you. So whether you just listen to the really, really, really brief explanation I gave of your love languages, or you took the quiz and you know what your top two, so you can have one primary and a secondary. So your goal is to narrow it down to your top two love languages. Then you can look for tangible ways to show yourself love using those, your preferred two love languages. So self-love via the love languages might look like something like this. Words of affirmation. If you resonated with or you quizzed out at words of affirmation, then your self-love practice would include words that you use to build yourself up. Positive self-talk, mirror work. EFT tapping is a good one because you can verbally kind of speak to yourself while you tap the points. Being, your own biggest cheerleader, your own sort of best encouragement. So you want to, journaling or affirmations can also be a really good one for words of affirmation. So you're looking for anything that's language-based, verbal language-based that you can use to show yourself love. Now, a little side note for those of you words of affirmation people. If you are someone whose love language is words of affirmation, and you are starting to become, hopefully after watching this video, more aware of how you can use words of affirmation to show yourself love, then let me give you a little bit of a warning that you want to really be conscious of where are you not speaking to yourself kindly. Because it's not really great for anybody, right? None of us benefit from negative self-talk, but if words of affirmation are your love language, then you are going to be even more susceptible and even more sensitive to negative self-talk, to looking in the mirror and beating yourself up, to the things that you might say to yourself if you make a mistake or you mess up. So be aware, draw that into your awareness. Not only the positive, we want to look at the inverse. Is, if we can use this to show myself love, where am I using that to do the opposite? That I can perhaps remedy as I become more aware of my language. Acts of service. If your love language is acts of service, you can start with simply honoring your needs, acknowledging and recognizing that you have needs without judgment, without beating yourself up, without wondering if it's okay or right or best, and just honor your needs as they come up. Give yourself what you need when you need it. Acts of service as a form of self-love can also be doing things that solve an issue in your life or a problem in your life that's really important to you. It could be being in service to others, being in service to a higher power. And it could be just those really simple acts of taking care of your basic needs. If you're an acts of service person, then really tangible self-care activities can be really good for you. You're the love language that's going to be good with, taking the special bath with the special crystal. Anything, again, you're working out, signing up for a new yoga class, anything that's really feels self-care based. So it's got it meets a practical, tangible need, if that makes sense. Gifts can be in the form of investing in yourself, spending money on yourself, literally investing in your hobbies, buying yourself little gifts, taking a shopping trip to reward yourself for something awesome. Anything that, and not judging your needs or wants when it comes to what you want to purchase yourself. If your love language is quality time, it could be time that you carve out to do things that you really love. It could be solitude. Maybe you need time alone. It could be taking yourself out. Like, I love the idea of, for quality time, people of going on dates by themselves, right? Anything that allows you to spend time with yourself or spend time with something that you love that's not another person, right? This is about you. I'm going to keep it internal. And if your love language is physical touch, it could be yoga or exercise. It could be massage. It could be going to a spa. It could be learning to love your body. Again, mirror work, even though it's not verbal, learning to love your physical self, thanking your body for helping you navigate this physical experience and experience the world around you. Masturbation, oils, lotions, like anything that's letting you just really love on yourself from a really physical, tangible way. I want to know your best ideas. So once you figure out what your love language is, you take the quiz perhaps in the link, listen to our chat, kind of figuring out what your love language is. The next step in this is really putting together a tangible list, a resource for yourself of here are the ways that fit into my 1 or 2 preferred love languages that I can show love to myself. And the reason I ask people to make a list, the reason I want people to have a resource is because when things get crazy in our life, right? We get busy, things get stressful, things get hard, we have a breakup, something happens at our job. Like whenever things are challenging in our life, our self-love tends to take a really big back burner, even though that's the time that we need it the most. And what I found working with people for the last decade of my life on the topic of self-love is that having some sort of tangible reminder resource of like, oh, these are things that I can do, helps us literally treat this like a practice. It helps us literally treat this like something that we're committed to doing on a regular basis. And instead of thinking up or coming up with an idea of something whenever it's time to do it, or you realize that it's been really hectic and you've been kind of ignoring yourself a bit, then you can look at your list. You just keep it in a journal or a notebook, or I tell people to rip it out and keep it by their bedside, somewhere where you can, or in your phone notes, somewhere you can just look at like the ideas you came up when you were tangibly, like, actively thinking about it. And it wasn't such a big deal. And you can just scroll down the list and see what something is that's accessible or feels good to you right now. And it saves you the trouble of like not only remembering that you really need to invest some time in your self-love, but then coming up with an idea of what can I do now. And it's really just nice to have something pre-created that was created in a tangible, intentional space that you can refer to later when things are a little bit crazy, or when you're running out of ideas, or you're not sure what to do to show your self-love. So this is your job. So your assignment, instead of doing a meditation, instead of doing a tapping right now, this is a really practical do the thing job as far as self-love goes, is I want you to figure out what your top 1 or 2 love languages are, either by taking the quiz or kind of deducing from my very brief descriptions of what they are. What are your top 2 love languages? And then I want you to make a list for each one of things that you could do, practical, tangible things that are accessible for you, that you could literally do at any time in your life to show your self-love. And look, there are like amazing things we could do. Like if I'm a physical touch person, like I could, book a weekend at a spa in, on a tropical island. And that would be amazing for my physical self, love touch person. That would be awesome. But that's not necessarily something that's tangible for me to do on a Tuesday, when things are feeling crappy at home, in theory. So you want to make sure that your list is not only specific and actually fits your love languages and feels good to you, but you want to make sure it's something that you actually are accessible, that you could actually do for yourself on any given day. That wouldn't be difficult or hard. And you can keep some big ticket items on there, of course, as inspiration. If you do get the opportunity to do those things, that's awesome. But just, also keep it accessible so that you can kind of choose from a list at any given time, whatever's going on. And the idea is, again, to start to practice self-love in a way that's tangible and real. Even if you've never done it before, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you don't know how, even if you're not sure what it'll feel like, all of those feelings are valid and wonderful. However, self-love is a practice, and that means you need to participate in bringing more of it into your life. You're not going to see the benefits, you're not going to see the outcome of self-love if you're not actually doing it. So we can think about it, we can talk about it all day long, but you have to create a personal practice that's real and valid and aligned with yourself in order to make this something that you're going to see or observe a change in your life and your relationships and your love life. Let me know in the comments what your love languages are. I want to know. And I will post some more examples for you, as well as, share with me your favorites. I want to know what your favorite ideas are for self-love that fit into your personal love languages. I think it'd be really fun if we just shared those and came up with a little kind of running list for ourselves of ideas that maybe somebody else didn't think of. That would be awesome. So share with me in the comments. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Thank you so much for being here on day 4 of this challenge. Tomorrow is day 5. We're going to wrap it up. And I hope that you have really been served by this experience so far.